Hey dudes, this is Betsy Baker, Linda from The Evil Dead, and you're listening to Tommy Throwback Kovac on Splat from the Past. We're gonna get you.
Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be welcoming the great Bill Oberst Jr., great actor of horror films and stage. The guy's done a lot of one-man shows, especially in New York, where he played JFK, Jesus of Nazareth, and he even did a play where he did all these different stand-up comedian monologues and stuff. And I want to ask him about that. And he's got some great movies out, of course, Death House, which has been out for a year now, and of course, Three from Hell, the new Rob Zombie movie, which is the third of the trilogy with House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects. I'm having him on today to talk about all that stuff, and I can't wait. So, here is my interview with Bill Oberst Jr. So, Bill, how are you today?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, my pleasure. It's such an honor, and I thank you for taking the time today. So, going back in time, did you gravitate toward acting early on?
Yes, I did. And it's because of being ostracized, like just about every actor that I've ever talked to, or any entertainer or public person, really. And anybody who tries to get out in front of the public and be noticed, if you scratch the surface, you'll find someone who's really saying, please like me. So, yeah, that was, I was gravitated toward performing because as a kid, I was very overweight. I had really bad acne at an early age. I mean, almost disfiguring acne, really chronic, bad. I made straight A's because I really liked books and I liked school. I knew all the answers in Sunday school. I couldn't throw football. I wasn't interested in sports at all. So I was the fat kid, the smart kid, the ugly kid, and the sissy kid all in one kid. And the only way out of that was to find some way to stand out, and for me that was performing.
Nice. Yeah, I don't mean this in a bad way. I think the acne kind of helped you out, in the future. With it actually has turned out to. Yeah, it's funny how life works out that way. Yeah, with all the sinister characters you played and stuff. So,
yeah.
So you did you do school plays and community theater and all that?
I did school plays. I was a drama kid, and if you look in any drama kid group around the country, you'll find somebody who's going to be nationally prominent acting, because that's where all the misfits are. And this business is nothing but a collection of misfits, both in front of the camera and behind it. So yeah, I did high school plays and that sort of thing too. Yeah.
Yeah, you could say that again about the misfits.
Yeah.
Was your father an actor?
No, because just the opposite. I'm the black sheep of the family. In that respect, my father's a respectable businessman with a little chain of retail stores, and everybody in the family went into the business except me. And that's, again, something that you will frequently find among performers, is that they're the sort of misfit in the family tree, too. So that's why I use the junior, actually, because my father shares my name. And I wanted to make sure that he was never confused with an actor.
Okay.
I love him, and he loves me. But my profession has always been to him, something of a vagabond profession, and I always want to make sure that people didn't confuse us, and that's why I started using junior.
Yeah, I figured that. That's why I had to ask because of the junior in your name. I'm a junior too, but I don't use it, but I should, because a lot of my dad's old high school friends find me thinking I'm him, and they're all a bunch of creepy drug addicts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where are you originally from?
originally from South Carolina, a little town on the coast, and a very small town. There's lower middle class people, pretty isolated in those days because this was before the internet, so my whole world was books, magazines, and I happened upon a magazine called Famous Monsters when I was in middle school. Mm-hmm. Famous Monsters of Filmland, when Flory Ackerman was the editor and publisher. And it turned me on to a whole world. I already liked horror movies and I like monsters, but I really grew to love them after reading Famous Monsters.
You must have really been excited when Famous Monsters got a resurgence.
Yeah, totally. I think it's great. And when Flory Ackerman was the publisher and editor of Famous Monsters, he introduced a whole generation of kids who never would have known about Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi and Lon Chaney Sr. Because in those days, it's hard for kids to understand now, but you couldn't watch anything at any time. Mm-hmm. Like, this was even before there were VHS tapes. So the only way you'd see a movie like Frankenstein or the original Wolfman is if it happened to be on late-night television, which was rare. And Lon Chaney silent films were never anywhere, so I would not have known that stuff like the original Phantom of the Opera existed were not for Famous Monsters. So it was a real education into the genre and the great monsters. It really made me a monster kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had Fangoria when I was growing up.
Yes, another great magazine.
That's a great one too. Yeah, they're going up and down. Sometimes they close and then sometimes they come back depending on who buys them. And stuff.
And Tommy, like you mentioned Fangoria, and I remember the thrill of buying a magazine and then like really savoring it.
Yeah.
Where you would go through each page and then you go back and say, I want to read this article later. Really take your time with it. It was every edition of Famous Monsters, Fangoria, Rue Morgue, all of that stuff back in the day. They were precious and you kept them, because you were proud that you had like a complete collection of. It's not the same online. I don't think we read the same online.
No. I have never read a book online, by the way. I can't stand to read online. I can barely get through a movie online. So
that's bad to hear because 90% of the movies and all of the movies that people like me make are watched online on devices. But yeah, it's a weird world to come from a world where people went to the movies or at least to the drive-in, sat in the dark and watched your entire movie, to a world now where they can watch 5 minutes and the baby's crying and they say, I'll get back to this next week.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's a big advantage now. At least you can do that. You couldn't do that, for many, many years,
It's an advantage to the viewer, but it's a disadvantage for the story. Because when you come back to it a week later, you're not going to go back and watch what you just rewatched. It's really hard to get any emotional impact.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So did you move to New York to study acting?
No, I didn't study acting anywhere. I have zero formal training. I just started doing it. Mm-hmm. We didn't have the money for college, and if I was going to do this, I had to educate myself and do it myself. And so I just started doing theater. I couldn't get anybody to hire me, so I decided, well, I'll hire myself. So I created one-man shows of famous people in history, and those did really well. And for 14 years, I made my living on the stage, graduating from those into other parts and doing some Shakespeare. And I was a stage guy. And then I just stumbled 10 years ago, into doing film and television.
Wow, so you're a self-made man.
And the same with film and television. Yeah, I learned how to do it by doing it. Mm-hmm. I'm a big believer in like immersion, where you can take all the classes that you want, but until you actually you got to fall on your ass at some point. So I'm a big advocate of like if you're trying to learn to do a thing, learn the rudiments, but then get in there and just start making your mistakes.
Yeah, you did one man shows like you did JFK. Did you hear from the Kennedy family when you did that?
I did that for the Kennedy Library up in the Northeast. I traveled around and did that show, using material drawn from the Kennedy Library archives. I also did Mark Twain, which 1,000 other people have done, and that's why I did it, because I knew that show worked. And then there was a Southern writer named Louis Grisard. He was very, very big. He was kind of the Garrison Keillor of the South. And when he died, his family was looking for someone to play him, and I did that for 15 years. Oh, yeah, I've done a lot of theater, and I'm currently touring as Ray Bradbury in a one-man show.
Oh, yeah.
Authorized by his estate. So I really I like portraying famous people in their own words. I like language. I'm a big fan of language.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing you did that I noticed that really caught my eye is that you did a one-man show of where you were performing as stand-up comedians and doing their old routines.
That's right. I did Woody Allen in that piece in his early 1960s stuff, which I think is really funny because it was stand-up back then. It wasn't vulgar ever because you couldn't be.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to be suggestive, you had to use innuendo, and it's really it's harder, and there's a much bigger payoff when you do a joke that is suggestive than if you do a joke that's just straight out explicit.
Yeah, I've been doing stand-up 13 years, and I can imitate many classic comedians, including the ones that you did on that show, but I do so many others too. I mean, wow. I mean, I'm thinking about, I think I should do a show like that.
Yeah, you should. It was actually really popular. I finished the show doing Rodney Dangerfield as my final bit, and people love Rodney. And I mean, I don't look anything like Rodney, but you get a rapid fire delivery going, and you give me had a really tough week. I went to my doctor. He said I'm going crazy. I said, if you don't mind, I'd like a second opinion. He said, okay, you're ugly too.
Yeah.
And he was like, boom, 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 boom. It was great, and he never made fun of anybody but himself.
Yeah. Yeah, do you have a favorite Rodney one-liner?
Oh, my God, there are so many. I like, I had a tough day at work. You come in, went to the bartender and asked him to surprise me. He showed me a naked picture of my wife.
I like that one, too, yeah. My favorite one, the one that kills me, oh, my God, it kills me every time I hear it. I told my son, I said, someday you'll have children of your own. He said, so will you. That's a good Rodney. That's a damn good Rodney. Wait a minute, you just made me think of another one involving his wife. My wife, she got these terrible habits. She wants to talk. She wants to talk after she has sex. She called me last week from the motel. Yeah, I remember that one.
Well, I read a story about him working in Vegas, and he had this boom, 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 and this woman was laughing so hard that he had to stop because her laughs was so loud that they were interrupting his rhythm. And he said, "You're breaking my rhythm, lady. Joke 2, 3, 4. Joke 2, 3, 4. Joke 2, 3, 4." Those are the great days of stand-up comedy, and again, that's language. It's the way that language is used and the timing, and a lot of stuff we've lost now.
Yeah, it's a sad thing, And there's this, PC woke culture going on, killing comedy. All that stuff.
Yeah, you have to give offense if you're going to be a comedian. That's true. Yeah, you have to. You have to make fun. I mean, that's the root. Well, Mark Twain, who I played for years, Twain said the root of comedy is tragedy.
Right.
The root of all humor is tragedy. Someone gets hurt, someone falls, something happened to someone, or it could happen to you, but it's always, the root is tragedy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then there's guys like Jerry Lewis who said there's no gap between comedy and tragedy.
Yeah, and Lewis really typified that. And I worked with Jim Carrey, who's so wonderful and done such wonderful work. And the project that we did together, when he was on, he was on. He was amazing. He was Jim Carrey. He got set applause. It was fantastic. And as soon as the take was over, he shut it down. At lunch, he was extremely quiet. And, that's, almost sad.
Yeah.
Almost a sad demeanor in between the comics. In fact, I remember a story that Rodney Dangerfield, when his father died, he went to watch the grave be covered. The funeral had been very sparse, and Rodney was there, the grave digger's there.
Mm-hmm.
And he's, and Rodney says, I want to hang around. The guy says, you're Rodney Dangerfield. And he says, yes, that was my father. And so the guy says, he said, do some of those jokes. I love it. And he was like, what are you doing? He said, I'm at my pop's funeral. I get no respect even here. Which is funny and sad at the same time.
Yeah. So when you're going around doing these one-man shows, do you have to get any kind of legal clearance? Yeah.
You do that, and as I'm doing now with the Ray Bradbury show, that's authorized and licensed by his family because it's all copyrighted material.
Right.
Except in the case of a true public figure like a president or a Kennedy or Winston Churchill or something like that, you would not have to if you're using public statements.
Right. Yeah, comedy is pretty much public statements, but it's not copyright.
Yeah, sure, you can't copyright a joke, right?
Yeah. So you moved to L.A. when?
10 years ago.
2009.
I did the very first thing I had ever done for television. I had no interest in doing television or movies, but there was this casting notice called a breakdown. And the breakdown was for Sherman's March, the History Channel, a docudrama they were doing for someone to play Sherman. Well, I was from the South, and Sherman was a great boogeyman. I'd heard these stories about how Sherman came through and burned everything, and he was a devil. And it just kept nagging at me, and I thought, I don't know. And so webcams were kind of new then, and so I had a webcam, and I thought, I'll just do this. So I did a video audition and ended up going for the real audition and getting the part. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even know what basic film terms meant or not to look at the camera. But we got through it. It got written up in the Wall Street Journal, and they mentioned me kindly there, and so I thought, okay, if I'm ever going to try this, I should do it now. So I went to L.A., and on the strength of that Wall Street Journal article, I got a manager and an agent, and, started doing that.
Mm-hmm. The first time I saw you was when you were on Criminal Minds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that character because he was like, for me, the archetype of the monster is the wounded monster, the monster that society has created by the way they treat them, usually with some physical deformity or something strange about them, and they're ostracized, and they end up just feeling like they're not even a part of society. I love those kind of monsters. Frankenstein's monster was one. And this guy on Criminal Minds, who they offered me a chance to play, he also was like that. I treasure the script from the first episode that I did that character, and the producer, Breen Fraser, signed it, and he said, to Bill, he said, who embodied the most heartbreaking serial killer ever on Criminal Minds. I really like that, a heartbreaking serial killer. Yeah, that was a good role.
Yeah. That's a pretty good description, too. But, I like that episode a lot. Yeah, that episode drew me to you, and then I went on YouTube and I watched your interviews you did for Film Courage, and I love how in the first two, you pretty much sum up Hollywood in a nutshell about how it's business and nobody cares, and the actor, it's the actor's job to not rest until they get a job, and all that. I mean, I thought it was pretty good insight into the business.
Well, thank you. And I got the opportunity to do those interviews because of a project called Take This Lollipop, which had run and as a Facebook app. It was the most popular Facebook app of all time at the time, and then it won an Emmy in 2012. And that got me some notoriety, which led to the Film Courage people contacting me. And it's funny how, everything goes around.
Yeah, that third interview you did was really touching, too, where you talked about how, now that more people know who you are, it's a little bit easier, but you said that you're okay with not being a worldwide, famous star and stuff. I thought that was very touching. That shows the depth of your humanity as an actor.
Well, thanks, Tommy. I'm not a good celebrity. I don't do I just don't do it very well because it always seems, well, hierarchy in general seems wrong to me for any human being to set themselves up above anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And for entire groups of human beings to be put behind velvet ropes. I know that we have to do this. That's why we created kings and queens and pretended that they were different than us. But being a part of it all the time just is too... It plays with your head and it plays with your perceptions of what being human is, not in a good way. Mm-hmm. So I don't like the fact that our culture is entirely predicated on celebrity, and my business is predicated on celebrity. If I tell you about a good movie, or not you, but if I tell the average person, it is this fantastic movie you've got to see that's extremely meaningful and you're going to love it, what's the first question they ask? Who's in it?
Who's in it? Yeah.
And if I say, Joe Smith, never heard of him, and the whole thing is completely dismissed because they never heard of him. So we're so dependent on celebrity now that if a thing does not have celebrity attached to it, we're not willing to enjoy it or take part in it in any way. And I don't think that's healthy.
Yeah. It's also another... part of, the image conscience culture that we live in.
Oh, man, it's awful. If you're an actor, and what do you do for you want to play? What do you do for a living? I'm an actor. Oh, really? What's the follow-up question? Always, always, always.
Yeah.
Have you done anything that I might have seen? Well, okay. Scream Queens and Criminal Minds. Well, I don't watch those. Anything else? Well, yeah, I did this movie with Rob Zombie. Oh, I don't watch his movies. What else? And they're fishing, feeling that they have the right to, they want to find something. Oh, and you get something that they know. And they go, oh, I know that. So it becomes all about what we know. And it's so silly because the implication is that if we don't know something or haven't been exposed to something, it cannot possibly have any value or worth. Well, hell, how do you go through life experiencing new things and observing anything new if all that matters is what you already know? And I think that's why we have so many remakes and reboots, because we're just locked as a society into this cycle with we're like this self-masturbatory culture, a dog chasing its tail.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, I was up in Burbank at the convention, Son of Monsterpalooza, and I talked to a lot of people who are hardcore horror fans, right? And I told them, I have a podcast, a horror podcast. There's 100 horror podcasters out there, right? So after every time I said that, there was no response. Even if I gave them my business card, no response. It's really weird.
Yeah, whereas I don't know. I just think if we treat each other as people and form relationships as human beings, then the business takes care of itself. That's what, when you get down into it at the higher levels of the business is about relationships.
Yeah.
People work with people that they know and like. That's why it's so damn hard to get into the inner circles, because most inner circles they already have people they know and like. And when you get in it, you better stay likable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, be nice to everybody, and treat everybody like they want to be treated. The golden rule and all that.
I was thinking about the golden rule this morning. It's funny you say that, because I was thinking, what is the one essential thing of life? If you're on your deathbed and somebody says, "What's the one thing I need to know to be human?" And that's really it. Treat other people the way you want to be treated, but it's so damn hard. You can live your whole life trying to do that one thing.
Yeah. I saw Death House recently.
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen Death House. How was it?
It is funny. Whenever I hear a long-waited anticipation of a movie, most of the time I'm disappointed when I actually see it. But I was actually surprised. I loved everyone's performances. And now I've talked to Harrison, I've talked to Dee Wallace and her daughter Gabrielle about the movie and stuff on the show, and they were disappointed with how it turned out and stuff, right? And I will tell you, I mean, it could have used maybe a little better editing and, a couple things here and there and stuff. But I thought everyone's performances was great.
But that's generous of you to say, and thank you.
Absolutely.
It's always that way. There's always something about a film that could be improved, especially in the indie world. And there's a lot that you don't have control over.
Yeah. Did you have any interaction with Gunnar before he died?
Just at a convention, on the convention circuit.
Uh-huh.
I met him at that time it was called Weekend of Hell in Germany, the big horror festival over there. It was great to meet him, and certainly great to be on set with all the horror legends. Barbara Crampton has a hell of a scream.
Oh, yeah.
She really screams loud. It was great. It's just a sustained scream queen tone. It's an old school scream. It's really great. I complimented her on it afterwards.
I've told Barbara many times when I see her, she's the Fay Ray of the last 30 years.
She is, isn't she?
Yeah. Like when I watch, Reanimator and From Beyond and Chopping Mall, all the early movies she did, I just God, it just reminds me of Fay Ray and King Kong when she's, being picked up by him,
That is so funny. You mentioned Dee. I just did a movie with her.
Yeah.
I think it'll be coming out toward the end of the year next year. We've been in 4 or 5 movies together, but we never get scenes together. We're always in different parts of the movie.
Uh-huh.
This is called Bits, and it's about a video game, a 1990s video game. There thought to be no more copies of it. It was always destroyed because the game was evil.
Huh.
This kid finds one copy of it, and the game takes over it takes over reality. And Dee's in it, and I'm in it, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But I saw her on set, and she was like, "Hey, Bill," I said, "Hey, Dee," I said, "You were in Ayla with me," which was a movie that came out last year. Good film. And she said, "Oh, wasn't I playing that?" And I said, "You were the mother." She said, "I'm always the mother." So we decided that we're going to do a movie where Dee kills me. And I'm really looking forward to that.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, to seeing that when it finally comes out. Wow. Yeah, video game. Yeah, that kind of reminds me of that movie Jackson Stewart and Steven Scarlatta made, Beyond the Gates.
Mm-hmm.
That came out a couple of years ago. Yeah, with Barbara. And about a VCR board game that's possessed.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I love it when inanimate objects, take on a life. That's good stuff.
Yeah. So you have 3 from Hell out now.
Mm-hmm.
It's the third of Rob Zombie's trilogy that started with House of a Thousand Corpses and then Devil's Rejects, and now this one and stuff. Mm-hmm. Did you like those movies?
I'm going to be honest with you. The violence level was more than I would normally be comfortable with.
Yeah.
And I found them troubling for that reason. But I think that, having worked with Rob Zombie, that he would respect that and would think that it was okay, because I think those movies were meant to be a little bit troubling. Particularly House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah.
Hard for me to watch, but they certainly, and I told him when I met him, I said, I really respect you. When I met him on set to do Two from Hell, I said, I really respect you, Rob, because violence is something that we make light of. We either make light of it or we're so horrified we don't talk about it. But you deal with it straight on, and you deal with the fact that there's a part of us that really wants to hurt one another for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
And you do it in a really, really challenging way, and I respect it. So, I respect his work a lot. It was great to work with him. He's a person who understands who he is as a public eye, and and at the same time, he understands who he is behind the scenes. He runs the tightest set I've ever seen. I mean, he's absolutely in charge.
Mm-hmm. I heard this interview he did a couple weeks ago where he said his dream project is not a horror film at all. It's a biopic about the last few years of Groucho Marx's life.
That's right. Yeah, I've heard that also, and I wish that he could get it made.
Yeah.
That's a great story. Marx was sort of quintessential funny man, and his last years are anything but. And yeah, I mean, it's really weird. Everybody has a dream project. That's not what they're doing, or what they're known for.
Yeah. It's crazy sometimes. We just sadly lost Sid Haig. How was he on the movie?
Fantastic and frail. I never got to work with Sid when he was really robust and healthy, sadly. But we shared an agent. We have the same talent agent in LA. And yeah, it was a real loss for the horror community for him to go, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, the guy had a huge career going back to the 60s. He was in TV westerns. He was on Batman.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
he was the bad guy in Foxy Brown. I mean, he's just had a versatile career, you know?
Yes, he has. It was good to work with Bill Moseley again.
Yeah.
On Three from Hell, and then a few months later, we ended up in Detroit doing an evil ventriloquist puppet movie, which is just coming out. It's called, it was called Handy Dandy's, and I think now it's called Devil's Junction, Handy Dandy's Revenge. So we play evil Masonic magicians who are involved with ventriloquist dummies that come to life. So it was outlandish and over the top and a lot of fun to do with them. He's a great actor. He's capable of doing really nuanced drama, but he also knows when to push it over the top.
Yeah.
That inspired me.
Yeah, he's a great actor, I think. And Tom Papa is in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a funny comedian. Chaz Bodo, I just saw him in Barbara Crampton's new movie Reborn. He played an abusive dad in that. I was laughing out loud when I saw him. Didn't expect him.
I hope he won't mind you saying so. Is it a comedic scene?
Is there what?
Is it a comedy scene?
It's not a comedy scene. It's a pretty brutal scene. But just seeing him, play an abusive dad was funny to me. Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna go see Three from Hell pretty soon. But do you have any other upcoming movies you can talk about?
Yeah, there's Blitz that'll be coming out. There's Handy Dandy, which is coming out pretty darn soon, I think, next month. There's a movie called Synchronic. I don't know if you're familiar with Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. They are co-directors. They co-write and co-direct, and they did Resolution. They did The Endless. And now they have a film, a time travel piece. It's set in the same world, and it's called Synchronic. And it's won awards in Toronto and in London at the film festivals. And I'm in that, and I'm really excited about it coming out. That'll be sometime next year as well.
Nice.
I've got three more movies to shoot before the end of the year. And then in January, Mark Savage is doing a sequel to his movie Stress to Kill that I was in with Armando Sante. Mm-hmm. And we're shooting that. And then I got a thing with Bill, actually, and with Kane Hodder that we're shooting up in New Jersey. And then, I forgot about a movie I did with Kane, which I think will be coming out first of the year, called The Good Things. The Bad Things Good Devils Do. I think is the title of it.
Wow.
And yeah, so that was fun too. I do a lot of them, and they come out in a different order than you shot,
Yeah.
So I remember what I shot, and I have to look to see what's coming out when.
Yeah, because you do so many. But wow, God, Armando Santi, by God, he's a heavyweight, ain't he?
Oh, he's kick ass. And when you do a fight scene with him, he really kicks your ass. And he was like, he said, "You don't mind if I rough you up a little, do you?" I was like, "No, it's fine." Well, he wasn't kidding. When he slaps, he really slaps. When he kicks, he really kicks.
Wow.
I mean, I was supposed to be in tears at the end of the scene, and I was.
He's
he's very intense.
He gives you pain. He gives you a workout. All that stuff.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he's great. The other great actor I worked with who was the same way, although our scenes weren't physical, was Robert Loggia, who's passed away now.
Oh, yeah.
But okay, so you know Bob Loggia.
Yeah.
Most people know him for dancing on the piano with Tom Hanks and Big.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We did a film together where he was St. Peter in his last days, and I'm the devil tempting him in his prison cell. And he's another intensely powerful actor. I really like working with the old school guys who are just very intense.
Yeah, there's still some great old school character actors out there, and as long as they're out there and they're doing great performances on the screen, the movie world is a better place to watch.
Well, and they know that sometimes you got to take it a little over the top, and other times you pull back. And to know when to do it, it's not always the same. It depends on the material. It depends on the shot. To have an idea of what cinema is, and I mean cinema is an art form,
mm-hmm.
So you understand, okay, this is what the cinematic frame that I'm in, the frame of this shot, requires this to both serve the story and make it entertaining for the audience. It's really kind of a delicate dance, because you can go overboard where you shouldn't, and then you can play it under and ruin a moment that might have been a real moment. It's a real instinctual thing. It just takes doing a couple hundred movies before you kind of figure it out, and those guys have done it.
Mm-hmm. Very well said, Bill. Well, I thank you so much for coming on today. You've got a great story. I love how, you're going out there and kicking ass on screen, and I think it should serve as a model for a lot of future actors.
Hey, Tommy, thank you, man. I'd like to see some of your stand-up. It's really been a pleasure to talk to you.
Absolutely. I'll send you some of my old YouTube videos.
I would really, really like that. Good man.
Thank you so much, Bill, and you have yourself a great day.
You too. Thanks, man. God bless.
Okay, God bless. Bye-bye. Well, there you have it. Bill Oberst Jr. Ain't he a cool dude? Nice guy. Very inspiring. The man went out there, created his own work, and then decided to came to LA, and now he's kicking ass, making many movies a year, many TV show appearances, and that is so inspiring. Everybody should go out there, create their own work, and seek out the business that way. That is just wonderful, beyond wonderful. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Add me as a friend on Facebook. Join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes.